In this video, we're going to enter some transactions into the supplier module. The first thing that we're going to do is create a purchase order requisition, which is that option there. And we're going to create that for the UK supplier. And we're going to have some bullets on there, 10 of them for £1, and we're going to have some handguns, 10 of them at £5. Okay, so I'm going to save the requisition so it gets a PQ number for a requisition, and I can then click the print button on the toolbar and print the requisition. There's my requisition. I'm going to close that down. Now I'm going to create a new purchase order for the UK supplier. Again, we're going to have 10 bullets on there. And we're also going to have 10 of a free text item. So to enter a free text item, we tab through the item name, we put a quantity in there. This then puts the standard non-stock item in there, and in the description we could then enter our text, which in this case I'll just put free text item. And our free text item is going to be costed at £10. Save and close on that. Similar to what we did in the customer module, I can now go into batch document printing and print the purchase order or purchase orders. If there's more than one, I can obviously tick them and OK them just to print them out. Okay, so there's my order, so I'll close that down. Now I'm going to create a new purchase order from the requisition that I put in a few minutes ago. So if I go into new purchase order, I've got a tab here to select from available requisitions, and I can then select my requisition and open it. So if I save my purchase order, there's my purchase order number. I think on the line it will save the purchase requisition number as well in the source document column. I'm now going to create another new purchase order for a US supplier this time, with 10 bullets on. And on this one I'm going to amend the exchange rate to 2 and amend the freight to $10. So I need to tick the override box and then key in $10 on the freight. Next I'm going to create a GRN from one of the purchase orders I've already entered. So if I go into new goods received, I've got purchase order 2 there, which was for my UK supplier. I'm going to open that one up, and then what I'm going to do is amend the received quantity on the bullets to only be 5, so we'll have 5 remaining. When I change the quantity down, it will ask me if I want to change the PO quantity down. So basically, am I expecting to receive the other 5, or do we just want to cancel them off the order? I'm going to say that I want to keep the other 5, so when it says do you want to change the unordered quantity, I'm going to say no. I'm going to receive all 10 of the handguns on the second line, and I'm going to save the GRN. That will, at this point, the goods will actually come into stock. Because we're obviously moving goods into the system, it writes a journal, and we can click the View Journal button to have a look at the journal that it's created. If I come out of these screens and I go to do a new GRN again, my purchase order 2 is still appearing there, and I can then raise a GRN against the remaining 5 bullets when they come in. So this time I'm actually going to receive them in. So I've saved my GRN to give it the GRN number. Also on this second GRN, the delivery charge isn't on there, as we can see. I'm now going to create a new bill, just for an active supplier, not linked to a GRN, this bill. So we could, if we wanted to, create a bill linked to a GRN, which would be probably the normal way to do it, but we can also create a bill against just an active supplier. So we're going to create it for our UK supplier. The terms are 30 days with 2% discount, get paid within 7 days, and I'm going to enter the invoice ref as 123. Value is going to be £100, £17.15 VAT because of the discount on the VAT. And then down in the bottom part of the screen it shows us what we're analysing that off against. I'm going to save that bill. We get a bill number, etc. We're going to create another bill this time for an active supplier. Again for a UK supplier. And this time I'm going to change this to 30 days net. If I try and enter the invoice as 123 again, the reference, it tells me it's already been used for the supplier. So I need to enter a different reference. Okay, the value on this one is £100, and I'm going to change the tax to £17.49. I'm going to change this first line so that it's got 5995 nominal on it. Other purchases, and I'm going to put £50 to that. And then I'm going to put the other line to the 5,000 one. £50 to that, and we can see again how the tax is split between the two. Save and close that bill. Now going to create another purchase order for a UK supplier. Terms 30 days from 30 days with 2% discount if paid in 7 days. And on this I'm going to put some bullets. And I'm going to put handguns. This time I'm going to put £10 on the handgun. If I save the purchase order, I'm also going to raise a GRN against this purchase order. There's two ways I can do that. I can either do it the way I did the first GRN, going into new goods received and picking up the purchase order, or I can just click the received items button on the toolbar. If I do that, it says, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, yes please. So it's then showing me the GRN with the details in. But I'm only going to receive 5 of the bullets. Again, it asks me if I want to write the quantity off. I want to leave them as outstanding, so I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to receive all 10 handguns. So I'll save my GRN, which will bring the goods into stock for me. And now I'm going to create a bill from the GRN just created. So again, if I wanted to, I could go into new bill, and that will show me a list of GRNs, which will include this one, and I can pick it up from there. Or what I'm going to do is just click receive bill on the toolbar. Ask me if I want to view it, I do. So the total net 105, tax £18 the penny. We've got 5 times a pound and 10 times £10. Okay, so if I save the bill, I can then view the journal, see how the journal is constructed. close these windows, and then go into find purchase order and find the purchase order I just entered, you'll see it's still showing in the open purchase orders tab because we've still got 5 remaining. So if I look at the tabs for received, I'll see that I've received 5 out of the 10 for the bullets and 10 out of 10 for the handgun. And if I look at the build tab, it will also show me that I've billed that same quantity. I'm going to create a new purchase order for a UK supplier. This time for 20 handguns, and I want them at £20. Oops, £10. Again, I'm going to create a GRN for this in the next step. So I'm just going to save the purchase order and go straight to receive items from within here. Okay, so we're going to receive 10 of the handguns, and this time we're going to presume that we're not going to have any more off the supplier, so we're going to actually write it off. So we're going to say yes to change the ordered quantity. So if I go back and have a look at the purchase order, look at the summary tab, we'll see that there's none left. Now I'm going to create a bill from that GRN I just created. So if I go into new bill, I can pick up my GRN. That'll open up the details on the screen. This time I'm going to change the terms to 30 days net. The total is going to be 110 because we're going to make some changes. £19.25 on the tax, for a total of £129.25. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say that the supplier originally said they'd sell these to us for £10, but on the bill they're actually saying that they're now £11. So before we actually save this bill, we're going to create a debit note. This debit note will be obviously for the 10 items by the £11, and I've changed the wrong quantity there. That's the quantity. I wanted to change the cost. Let me change the cost there. So it's 10. We're booking in 10. We're confirming 10, but it's at the £11 cost and not the £10 cost. Now, before we save the bill, what we're going to do is create a debit note. Now, this debit note will then basically say that we're not going to accept the difference for what the increase in cost. So if we wanted to accept the difference, we could click accept the difference on that, and it will basically put it in as normal with the cost of the goods going in at £11 rather than £10. But if we know that we're not going to be paying that, we're going to be paying the £10, we can create the debit note at this point. And creating the debit note at this point will actually put the goods in at the £10 cost and not the £11 cost. So on here we can see we've got a difference all in all of £10 for the 10 times £1. And if I view the journal for the debit note, we can see that it's put in against inventory control, it's booking them in at £10. I actually needed to print that debit note, so I'll go into find debit note, open it back up and click print. And we can print this and send it to the supplier. And what we'll notice on the print is that it actually tells the supplier why we want a debit note, why we're issuing that debit note to them. And if we also drill down into the handgun item, we'll look at the costing tab, what we will see is that the average cost has been updated at the £10 and not the 11 from the last bill. If I double click that, it'll show me what's gone in to make that. We can see bill number 5, it's got it there at £10. If I hadn't created the debit note or I'd have accepted the difference, it would have booked it in at £11. I'm going to create another purchase order for a UK supplier. For 10 handguns at £10. And again, I'm going to create a GRN for this PO, so I'm going to stay within the PO and click the Receive Items button to create the GRN for me. I'm going to receive all of the 10, so I'm just going to save that GRN, and now I'm going to receive the bill straight from this GRN as well. I want to view it. Now what I'm going to do on the bill is change the terms to just be 30 days net. That obviously changes the tax figure, etc. But I'm also going to make some other changes to this. So the net's going to be £121. It's going to be 21.18 in tax, to give me a total of 142.18. And then what we're going to do is confirm 11 in. So we're going to say that they've billed us for 11 instead of 10, as well as a confirmed cost of 11. So again, we're going to create the debit note before saving the bill. Very important to do it before we save the bill, otherwise it'll book it in at the average, the inflated cost rather than the lower cost, the one that we're willing to pay. So now we do create the debit note. So it says here we've got basically a difference of £1 on the cost, as well as a difference of 1 on the quantity as well. So I'm going to create the debit note. So it creates 2 lines on the debit note this time. One will be for the 10 times £1, and one will be for 1 times £11. Again, if I print that debit note out, we can see there what it's done. So we've been invoiced for 1 more, and we've been charged an extra £1 as well. If I go back to the bill and view the journal, then we'll see that we've got an over invoice control nominal there for the extra 1. And if we go back to the bill and drill down into the item ledger and go actually into the item ledger tab here, item ledger shows all the movements on all the stock that we've got in and where it came from, basically. So it's got all the GRNs in there. So basically we can see everything that's happened. So if we go to the GRN and click the plus button, it then shows the bill. Now I'm going to create a batch type credit, really. So what we can do is go into new debit memo credit note, and we're going to raise it for a UK supplier. And this works in exactly the same way. So we can do £10 plus whatever VAT is on there. It's the discounted VAT again because of the discount on there. I'm just going to save and close on that one. Next thing is a supply payment. So I can create a single supply payment against a supplier. So I'll choose the UK supplier, and I'm going to enter £100 in a payment. The screen it looks like a check, and basically I can, in here I can put a check reference in there, so 001, or we've got a little plus button here that will get the next sequential number from the bank account. Okay, so I save it and it gets a unique pay reference at the top. Then go to the allocate tab, very similar to what we did in the customer ledger. We can then allocate that. It automatically ticks the payment that I've just created, can then allocate that to a transaction. So I'm going to allocate that to my £100 opening balance and save that. It tells me there was no gain or loss. Okay, I'm now going to go and make a couple of changes to some items for the next part. So I'm going to go into the bullets item and select the US supplier on the costing tab. So I'm going to delete all that's in there, and I'm just going to select my US supplier, and I'm going to amend the supplier cost price to $3. And save my changes. I'm going to then go and amend the handgun item, and I'm going to do a similar thing, but this time I want the UK supplier on there, which is already there, so I'll just delete the other two rows. Amend the supplier cost price to £8. Save and close, and I'm going to go back into customer and just switch credit approval off. Okay, I'm now going to create a sales order while I'm in the customer module for a toy customer UK. $10 bullets. $10 handguns. And 10 holsters. And for each of them I'm going to tick the drop ship box on the sales order. So we're not going to have these items come straight into our warehouse and we'll ship them. The supplier is going to ship directly to our customer. Okay, so I'm going to save that sales order. And from here I could actually create the drop ship order, but I'm going to do something I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. I'm going to go back into supplier and go into create drop shipments. And my 3 items appear that I've just put onto that sales order, and the default supplier that I've got set up in them is in the list, so it's already appearing. I could also change the supplier in here if I wanted to. It's a drop down box and I can select other suppliers. I can also amend the actual prices, etc. on here, but these are defaulting from them special prices I put on the supplier record. For now, create the dropship orders. It tells me 2 orders have been created, and that's because we've got 2 different suppliers on there. So it's creating one purchase order for one and one for the other. So if I say yes to view them, I can see that the purchase order has a reference of it to say it's a drop ship, and it says what sales order that purchase order's come from. So there's my one for a US supplier. There's my one for a UK supplier with the 2 items on there. I'm going to go and create another sales order now. For a toy customer for 1,000 bullets. 1,000 handguns. And 1,000 holsters. Just going to save and close on that sales order. Now I'm going to go back into Supplier again and run the auto-generate purchase order routine. So we're just going to run it using sales trends, and it's going to look at trends for the last 1 month. So it's looking at invoices basically over the last month to see how many of these items we've sold, which it'll then work out how many we need. So if I go next, main warehouse, it's got all my suppliers in there which I'll leave ticked, and go next and finish. What that does is it shows me what items I need to order. So it's basically got my handguns and my bullets on that screen, and it's saying it needs to order just over 11,000 of the handguns and just over 1,000 of the bullets. But if I double click on any of these figures, it'll bring up the calculation screen, which shows me how it actually got to them figures. So you can see exactly how it came up with the figure, so you're not wondering, well, that doesn't look right to me, I wonder how it got there. Okay, so if I tick the 2 items, as long as they've got a supplier against them, which these have, it's happy, otherwise I'd have to specify a supplier, and I'm going to click OK. And this will create the orders. Now again, it's created the 2 orders, and I'll have a quick view of them. So there's my 1-for-1 supplier, and there's my other one. Okay, now what I'm going to do is create a GRN for my French supplier, so not from a purchase order, but actually directly for a supplier this time, and it's going to be my French supplier, and it's going to be for 10 bullets and 10 handguns. And I'm going to save and close on my GRN. And now if I go into the Intrastat, confirm Intrastat section, couldn't find it there, and it will show my GRN there. So you can see that Enterprise uses the GRNs and not the bills to see what exactly it should be putting on the order. So I'm just going to confirm this through the Intrastat. Again, I can go into detail, exactly the same as what we did in sales, and go into detail and check all the details first. And until I confirm it through here, it won't show on the accounting Intrastat analysis. So I'm just going to confirm that through. Now what I'm going to do is create a new bill from against the GRN for the French supplier. Oops. It's this one. We're going to enter 2345 as the reference, and no other changes. So we're just going to save and close on that one. Now what we're going to do is go and void that payment that we put in earlier. So under Tools, down the bottom of the menu, we've got void payment. Then pick up the payment that we did before, go into the payment tab like that, and we can just click the void button. Okay, so there's our void payment transaction. Works exactly the same way as what the customer one did. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is create a supplier refund. And we're just going to create a refund transaction for our UK supplier for £100. Fairly straightforward screen. We can then save the refund and we could go and allocate it. Okay, next thing we're going to do is a supplier payment run. Now before we do that, just need to make sure the data's set up correctly. So I'm going to go and have a look at a UK supplier. So if I go into find supplier, a UK supplier, and I need to make sure that the payment type or payment group on it is remittance and file, like so. I need to put some bank details in, so I'm going to put a sort code of 010101 with a bank account number, save and close, and then I need to go and change the one on British Air Travel to be remittance and file. And this time I'm also going to put a factor onto this account. I'm going to go and have a look at toys, toys, toys. And I'm going to change this to be check and remittance. Okay. I'm now going to create a payment run. So in the payment supplier payment folder, we've got create payment run option. Double click that and it runs a wizard. And what I'm going to do is select all suppliers. I'm going to include bills that are eligible for discounts as well. And I'm going to set this date forward a little bit so that I get a few transactions on it. So if I go next, I've got my transactions there for various suppliers. So I'm just going to go and tick a couple for the different suppliers. I've got my UK supplier. I did British Air Travel as an alternative one, and I think I had Toys, Toys, Toys was one of the other accounts I just amended. So if I go next on that, I can then print a suggested payments report, and that prints out all the transactions that I've just ticked. So maybe someone shows that report to someone and then decides whether they want to pay all these or not. So what they can then do, having made that decision, they can come in and amend the payment run, and they may say, well, actually, I'm not going to pay that bill, and we'll just pay all the other bills on there. So the next thing that I'm now going to do is I can reprint that report, okay, like so, and that'll just show the new ones on there, and then save and close. And then finally I can go and process my payment run. Now I have to process my payment run per payment group. So if I do the first one as remittance and file, this shows any transactions that are against suppliers that have remittance and file. So in this case it's British Air Travel. So if I click process payments on this and then say that I want to process and print my remittances, okay, it defaults to the right report for me. I could change it and print another one if I needed to as well. So I'm going to print my remittances out. Okay, so there's my one for UK supplier, there's my one for what will be the factoring company, because we're paying them through the factors, so you can see how it does that for the factoring company. Okay, so if I close that down and go back to the previous screen, it asks me, did the payments print correctly? Now if I say no at this point, because there's a problem on the printer or something like that, I've then got the option to go and process and print again. If I want to, I can also abandon out of the payment run at this point, and I can start again. So if I process and print again, and come back out of this, when it says did they print correctly, I'm going to say yes, and that will post the payments. Now since I haven't created the file at this point, I forgot to click create file, I can still go and do it through the historical payment run. So if I go into historical payment run, I can go into remittance and file, I can look at that and I can say generate remittance file. Okay, so I now need to go and process my payment run for them other types. So I've got check and remittance in here for instance. So I've got my transaction there, so if I process payments on that, okay, it's going to say how do you want to assign the check number. I can either have it automatically assign check numbers, so I put the starting number in and then just click assign, or I can manually assign them where I actually key in the check number. So I'm just going to use this little plus button to put the last number off the bank. This is number 1, and then click assign, and it'll put the payment number in. So obviously if we've got a whole list of payments in here, it'll just sequentially put the payment number in if I do it this way. Then I click the payment process and print button. Again, I can change the different formats, but I want UK standard check and remittance. Okay, there's my check and remittance. Now when I come out, I get asked again if they printed successfully. I'm going to say yes to this time, so it's just going to basically post them through now. So that's posted them. And again, that will again show in the historical payment routine. If I just go into check only, check and remittance it was, then it will show in there and I can reprint the documents. That concludes the supplier transactions. The next video will go through the inventory transactions.